Now, last but not least, we have to talk about the most fun tanks in Dragonflight so far, in our humble opinion. Now, Flame, you gotta make some disclaimers.
The thing is, it's purely based on the fun. Obviously, sometimes it's nice to do a lot of damage, sometimes it's nice to not die as a tank, but most of the time, like, when you press your buttons, are you having fun? Do you look at your screen and go like, oh, that's pretty cool? It's pretty much what we're going for. It's purely subjective, it's in our opinion. It does not mean that whatever is S tier is gonna be the best tank for you to play, and whatever is D tier is going to be...
No, it's very subjective, and considering fun for tanks, we're always talking about how nice or how important or how impactful you feel when you are able to gather all the mobs around you, how much is the damage you do to all of those mobs important to you, and how fun it is as well. Not to mention, you know, being able to survive some specific tank busters or having some mobility. There's a lot of factors we pull into this. Performance to some extent as well, as always, because we know all about the DPS hordes, or in this specific cases, the HPS hordes. We'll get to it, but let's start it off. Let's get on with the Blood Dead Knight, which Blood Dead Knight had like a pretty steady and decent run up until this point in Dragonflight. I believe there were no major hiccups. I mean, if you want to have fun while healing yourself, this is the tank to play.
If you wanna, you know, make your healers uncomfortable, for sure. But Blood Decay has kind of, it's probably right now design-wise the best it's ever been, obviously from our perspective, because it definitely has the tools that Blood needs. It doesn't have the overpowering systems that it had in the past, and it's a pretty simple tank to do. You generate runic power, you spend runic power, and you slap big-ass shields. Not to mention, that's something that Blood Decay hasn't had in a while, a sense that your Mastery Blood Shield actually works to give you some more damage and absorbs, and it's kind of nice, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, damage, sometimes the damage isn't that good, but they are receiving some buffs, so we're not like calling it out right now. For those of you who appreciate doing a lot more damage as a tank, well, that is coming towards the Blood Decay's way. No problemo. Overall, I think like maybe one of the biggest negatives, if you want to have a negative for Blood Decay, is that, you know, they're still a Death Knight, they're still slow.
Yeah.
Sometimes that can get in the way of having fun, as opposed to maybe jumping all over the place like a Vengeance Demon Hunter or a Brewmaster Monk, but they're all in their own category. So for us, I believe Blood Decay is not an S tier.
No, I would put it into A tier. I feel it's doing good. I don't know if you want to. Like,
no, A tier is no. A tier was what I was thinking about. It's not. This is another thing, because I know a lot of people appreciate this. Is not as complex or as complicated as it was in the past. So I know a lot of people appreciate the more simple, straightforward stuff. Well, here it is. It's an A tier for our books.
On the other hand, though,
let's talk about complexity, boy. I think this is by far the hardest tank to play currently. Brewmaster Monk. It has a lot of stuff to be aware of and to press. You have to be familiar with it. Like, listen, this is an acquired taste. I know not a lot of folks appreciate it, and a lot of people, like, because of it's so, I won't say bloated, but it's so overly infused with a lot of mechanics and abilities. Maybe sometimes you don't feel as tanky. I know some people said that, but it's not true. Once you understand it and you get the hang of it, it's really fun.
It does have some of the best toolkit, and it kind of got like a facelift coming into Dragonflight, where it comes to the type of abilities and tools that you have access to. It kind of got all of the cool toys that you've had in the past from past expansions. You know, the Shadowlands playstyles, you've had some of the legendaries, you have the fire-breathing stuff, which I personally enjoy, just spewing out fire left and right.
Fantasy-wise, it's beautiful.
Because you light up your brew and you spit it on people, and this has to be really awesome for some maniacs. But it's actually really cool. It does have a higher learning curve, but it does a lot of the cool stuff nice. And if you are a fan of Stagger and you like to see big hits and you're like, they just don't scratch me, then Brewmaster is definitely a tank for you. And I think right now, although it might be a little bit bloated on the buttons, it's probably in one of its best situations so far in terms of like overall.
I think like you can. It's maybe a hard word to call them bloated, although I cannot think of any other word. But the thing is, this is like one of those tanks that you can play and not necessarily be super spammy on your buttons. Like everything kind of makes sense. Yeah, exactly. It's engaging gameplay once you get the hang of it. So I don't know. Maybe as I said, sometimes it can be squishy because Not everybody understands or wants to play with the stagger. Stagger, by the way, is a really cool mechanic when theoretically you should never get one shot because of it if played right, and your healers have to know. So maybe you're a little bit dependent on your healer to know how to like play with you as a brewmaster sometimes. Yeah, for sure. But I still think this should be in the upper ranks for sure. Gameplay wise, fantasy wise.
It's a monk. If you like Windwalker and you like the style of like I have a lot of buttons, they all have a purpose, they all do different things, then you're probably gonna like Brewmaster.
Yeah, I mean still an A tier. Again, very subjective, a fun tier list, guys. Don't get your brain blown up. It's our thing here. All right,
it's really good.
Now let's talk about the one that have changed all over the place.
Oh my god,
Guardian Druid.
This is probably gonna be the most controversial one because I know you've been a long-time fan of the bear, especially in Shadowlands, since it's been one of the outside of Paladin, which was the only class that you've played for 35 years. Bear was the first probably tank that you went into, right?
Yeah, in Shadowlands, yes.
And I was like totally on the opposite side of the tree with Bear. I did not like it, but now it has changed a lot. Listen, we know that bears are squishy. This is not to talk about bears that are not squishy. We've been saying that before, but Bear is actually fun. I think Bear does some of the coolest things that a spec should do in WoW, not to mention a tank spec. First of all, you have a gazillion playstyles with the new talents. You have about 4 at the very least that I can think of off the top of my head right now that you can play. I don't think any other tank has these many
maybe Pro Warrior?
I think Pro Warrior is pretty much cookie cutter still, but Guardian is actually fun. It has all the druidy stuff that you like
and you love,
and you can be an arcane bear. You can be a big Iron Force stacking maniac that just, you know, do you remember when you were a kid and you played the stop hitting yourself playstyle? That's basically Bear right now. You stack so much Iron Force that everybody just hurts themselves trying to punch you in the face because you're a big fat bear with a lot of armor.
Yeah, and it delivers on the fantasy of it, because when I first picked up the Guardian Druid back in Shadowlands, I was expecting to be just a big sponge of bear and be able to absorb everything, and sure, that still can be the case here. I guess you can talk about, I don't know, it took maybe a long time for the Blizzard to actually make it work. I know when the 10.8.5 released, it was super buggy. I think they did the hotfix quite recently, like you can now have like the magic mitigation as well, because that was a big problem for Guardian Druid.
That actually bumped, because we did some keys on stream with the bear, and I was actually to push about 2 keys higher than before just because of the bug fix, which was really cool. I cannot wait to see what more. Probably will need more buffs. Yeah, no, for sure. And remember, you're still a druid. You have all the versatility in the world as a druid, you know, all the utility and all that stuff. It's giga fun to just play a druid spec point. That's it. Maybe Boomkin. I don't know about Boomkin. That's a different tier list. But in terms of ranking Guardian, I think it's really, really good right now. It's for me, it's clearly S tier. It's the tank that I'm having the most fun with right now.
This is gonna be so controversial.
Dude,
I can already see the comments.
I know you love it because it's amazing.
I've seen it. It's basically what I loved about it in Shadowlands, but now it's like super ironed out and complete, and it gives you so much variability.
It has all the cool things that make you love Feral's playstyle diversity.
I get it.
Because you're a beast that just smashes stuff around. That's what you have to be.
Oh my god, I cannot wait to see the comments on this. All right, let's talk about Protection Paladin, another favorite of ours.
Historically, at the very least.
Yeah. People think we're Paladin haters for some reason. We're just pointing out the obvious, boys and gals, but we love the Paladin class to death, and we're just sad all the time that we were not like, our expectations were not necessarily met with the whole design of the talents and the playstyle.
Okay, can we get this out of the way real quick? Listen, Prot Paladin is not a bad tank. Prot Paladin has, we trash it, but we probably trash its design more than its actual performance. But Prot Paladin is actually doing really good stuff. I think we're seeing Prot Paladins edging closer and closer to the best tank in, at least in Mythic Plus right now. And in Raids, they're doing like really, really good anyway. But outside of that, Prot Paladin, let's go over the things that we think are fun about Prot Paladin, which is, you know, being able to be the whole package for your team.
Hey, listen, if you're missing a healer, don't worry about it. Listen, Prot Paladin can do some off heals, baby.
The 5 tanks or the no healer runs in Mythic Plus, that's basically Prot Paladin.
It's Prot Paladins, yeah. Listen, in terms of like the fantasy, Prot Paladin always stood out because it delivers on that. Like, you cannot really compare anything to Avenger Shield. That animation sound is just amazing. All of the flying hammers around you, and I guess, yeah, talking about Avenger Shield, big problem still that it doesn't generate holy power anymore, which is
I mean, some could argue that you don't need that holy power, but it just it feels worse than it feels good to lose something that you had. It's like it's okay, fair. Maybe we don't need the holy power, but you've lost something that you were able to do for years.
Yeah. So I played it especially when I was leveling and also in the beta tank and some Mythic Plus, and it didn't feel bad. It just as always it felt gimped. It felt that it wasn't complete, but the fantasy was still there. I still had fun playing it.
Oh, yeah,
I was always like a little bit salty seeing the potential the spec could have had and completed it in the final game, which has happened.
I'm telling you, if Prop Paladin would have received the DK and the Monk treatment, where in Shadowlands prior to the tier set, it had I had the most fun on Prop Paladin. Was my favorite tank in 9.1, I think.
I remember.
It felt like an actual tank. It felt like how Bear feels now. It has a lot of tools. It's a little bit on the squishy side before it became, you know, top meta tank. And now it feels like you've lost some of that and you've gained something that you're doing a little bit better, but you don't feel like you filled any kind of gaps. It feels like the tools that you've had from Shadowlands are a little bit, like you mentioned, gimped. Like the Divine Tool doesn't really feel the same. You had some, there are some cool things with Prop Paladin with the way the Avenger Shield can be changed to do more single target or to hit more targets. That's interesting. But outside of that, it feels like they're taking more away from it as a whole than giving it. So I'm kind of hoping that it gets a little bit of love, maybe with the red rework in the mix.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well. Yeah, all of the Paladin specs will get love eventually, but it's kind of necessary they started out with the red. Okay, let's rank this bad boy. So for me, it would still be an S tier, but I cannot really rank it S tier because I really hate the fact that Avenger. This is one of my biggest gripes. However, you want to counter argument.
Sure,
this,
I mean it's fun. It's subjective.
Yeah, you can talk about the bloat having too many holy powers or whatever. I don't care. It's not S tier for me.
It's enough for me too, and the fact that it actually has only like one main build with maybe 1 or 2 variances.
Yeah, that's
it's
also
the tank that I've seen maybe with the least amount of variance in its place.
Okay, B tier it is then. It's B tier, but we love Paladins. Okay,
we're on the edge of our seats waiting for some Paladin love, man.
Exactly. And B tier is still respectable. You can still have fun with it, but I feel we have way more fun with Brewmaster and Guardian. Okay, let's talk about Protection Warrior.
Oh, this is another controversial because it's kind of like on the opposite side of the bear when it comes to Spectrum. Pro Warrior has obviously been one of my favorite tanks since I've also mained it for the better part of Shadowlands when it was a different style of spec than it is now. Listen, as much as I hate to admit it, Pro Warrior is actually fun. It's fun. It's where Prot Paladin has some of the coolest and most amazing, fabulous animations with the sound effects and the spell effect. Pro Warrior has the meatiest animations.
Yeah, impactful.
Yeah, you hear the crashes and the sounds and things breaking apart, and you feel like a warrior. It's not. It's cool. It's cool, and it does have. It does pretty much have a well-rounded tank kit. You probably have an answer for most, if not all, of the things. Sometimes oppressively so. I mean, it's fun to do a lot of damage, to take very little damage, to be very mobile, and feel like you can do all. But after a certain while, it's like you can do everything. There's nothing else left. Like
it's true. And obviously, you can talk about shield block, spell reflect, all the things that a protection warrior can block, and that's super fun. It delivers on the fantasy. It's that warrior with the big shield over there, just taunting everybody and screaming at them, and it's there, and it is actually fun to play. And once again, they still have one of the coolest talents in the game right from the get-go. Maybe we can talk about I think that the biggest argument for it is like in the talents, you don't sacrifice much to gain something if you're looking for a specific thing. It's clearly an S tier, even though performance-wise it's very, very good as well. We're not going to talk about performance because we know it's really good. It's easy to play. Again, some people really consider that when it comes to fun, as opposed to maybe Brewmaster, but an S tier for sure.
Behind Bear. That's where it belongs. That's what you get. That's what you get.
I mean, it's very subjective, we know, but again, this is all fun and games and what we consider. Let's talk about Vengeance.
You know what's fun? That both the best and the worst tanks are in ST.
Well, that's how we do it, man. It's not all Warcraft logs and Rare.io over here. It's fun. Play what you like, baby.
Vengeance. For Vengeance, I'm a little bit mixed because it has what Pro Warrior has, where it feels like it has pretty much everything you want to have as a tank. You have a lot of defensives and abilities to deal with different types of situations. different types of damage, the profiles that will hit you in the face. You're also very mobile. You also feel like, you know, that edgy kid that always wanted to DPS but just wants to tank. So.
Yeah. You can talk all day, man. This is an S tier for me, and that's it. Listen, I loved it, and this is probably my go-to tank because I have my DH ready to pump at level 70. I absolutely love it, man. I feel because I tried it in Shadowlands and it felt kind of gimped in some capacity. But now in Dragonflight, such an improvement all across the board. It basically delivers on all of the fronts. Sure, you can talk about some negatives, but listen, for me, the most fun tank is the one that isn't super easy, isn't super complicated. It's very mobile. It can do some damage and it can survive. And for me,
you're a big demon.
Yeah, Vengeance just delivers that. Sure, you can talk about the edginess and all of that. Fuck all that. It's just a beautiful spec to play, and it's so bombastic and all over the place. I love it. Okay, this is S tier. I don't want to hear about it.
It's a good spec. I definitely agree.
Yeah.
It deserves its place.
This is but again, this is the fun tier list. All right. So while we consider fun in terms of tanking so far, things may change in the future since we're getting like super updates, tuning changes, reworks, like in all of these 0.5, 0.7 patches. So things might change, but so far we're kind of like knee deep into the season right now. It's great to play almost any tank. Maybe show some love to protection Paladin. I am eager to see something happening on that front too. Maybe make the talent builds more versatile. Maybe have some different interactions, some different mechanics.
I mean, Bear is probably the best example for this, seeing as how just in the middle of the patch, out of nowhere, it got a new talent. It got a couple of shuffles around, a couple of buffs here and there, and it actually made it so that you can actually have play styles, different styles of Bear, different styles of gameplay that you can go with, and deal with different situations in different ways. So I feel like if they take the Bear example and put it into something like Paladin, into maybe a little bit of blood, then we can probably have a lot more in this year. I don't know.
Yeah, that could be totally fun. Plus, I almost forgot. As a Vengeance Demon Hunter, you can use all your capstones, which is really fun.
Oh, as opposed to Paladin, you actually have
access to all of them.
Even Bear can use all the capstones.
Yeah, but I'm talking about Vengeance, okay? We already ranked Bear to being the first. But that being said, you know who's always first? Our Patreons, because they support all of this content that we do here. It's an amazing thing to have be supported by you guys. It means the world to us. And listen, if you're not a Patreon, it's not required, but you can check the link in the description, see what it's all about. And
thank you for watching the video and everything that we do on the channel, and we will see you in the next one.
Bye-bye!
I've been loving it then, I still love it now. Still, I play WoW. Still, I play WoW. Getting better every day, let me show you how. Cause still, I play WoW. Still, I play WoW. It's getting harder to stay, but at the end of the day, it's a guilty pleasure, so just log in and play. Whether it's classic or retail, I'ma do a /bow. Still, I play WoW.